Born on November 5, 1964, in the small village of Oko on the outskirts of Accra, Ghana, Abedi Ayu grew up in a family that had almost nothing. For him, football was not just a game, it was joy, escape, and a promise of something bigger. His childhood was a constant balance: school during the day, work to help his mother in the evening, and barefoot matches under the dim glow of a kerosene lamp. From such scarcity, the spark of one of Africa's greatest footballing talents was ignited. Abedi didn't even know who Pelé was. His family was too poor to own a television. Yet, by a twist of fate, the name Pelé would follow him forever. His friends called him that not because he resembled the Brazilian legend, but because of the way he played. Dazzling dribbles that left opponents frozen, sudden stepovers like a dancer on stage, and the uncanny ability to command space with nothing more than a shrug of the shoulders. The nickname Pelé became destiny, stamped into his Ghanaian passport by the National Federation itself, an official recognition that this was a boy meant to be known by the world. Still, Abedi always reminded people, "They call me Pelé, but I will play like Abedi." He was never a copy. He was himself, an original artist of the game. In 1978, at just 14, he won Ghana's Young Talent of the Year award and began playing for Real Tamale United. For local fans, a star had already been born. But for Abedi, it was only the first step on a long, winding journey, from dusty fields in Ghana to the grand stage of world football. The opening chapter of Abedi Pelé's life is not only a story of poverty, but also a testament to resilience and destiny. In the darkness of nights without electricity, a child with a handmade ball carried within him the light that would one day illuminate all of Africa. From the very first steps outside Ghana, Abedi Pelé's football journey was anything but smooth. He was among the earliest African players to seek a career in Europe, and that path was littered with prejudice, rejection, and hardship. At just 18, Abedi was called up to represent Ghana at the 1982 African Cup of Nations in Libya. It was a miracle, a teenager, barely known on the continental stage, suddenly thrown into the biggest tournament in Africa. In the final, he was brought on and almost instantly showed the spark of someone born for the spotlight. That gold medal was not only his first title, it was proof. Ghana had unearthed a rare gem. But glory faded quickly. Africa embraced him, yet Europe looked away. Abedi drifted across Qatar, Switzerland, and even England. But all he found were short-term contracts, fleeting chances, and uncertainty. At one point, unemployed and forgotten, he thought maybe football wasn't for him after all. Fate intervened. In 1986, he had a trial with French giant Saint-Étienne. L'Équipe praised him after friendly matches, yet the club still turned him down. But Abedi refused to give up. Then came an unexpected lifeline. OGC Nice, a modest second division side. There, in the 1986-87 season, he exploded, leading them to promotion for the first time in history and earning the title of League Two's best player. For Nice fans, he was a legend, however briefly. Surely this would be the springboard to the big stage? Not quite. The club's president, eager to cash in, demanded too high a fee. No one was willing to buy, and Abedi was effectively trapped during his peak. The artist was locked in a cage. Eventually, he moved on, signing for Mulhouse, another small club. Within just a few matches, everyone admitted, he is far too good to be here. This time, Marseille finally moved in. And yet, even at one of France's biggest clubs, destiny tested him again. Olympique de Marseille had just hired Franz Beckenbauer, the rigid German coach. In Beckenbauer's strict system, Abedi was forced out wide, disconnected from the game, and OM collapsed, 5 defeats in 15 days. Beckenbauer was sacked. His replacement, Raymond Goethals, made a fateful choice. He put Abedi back in the middle, in his natural habitat, as the number 10. From that moment on, history shifted. Abedi Pelé was no longer just another talented African footballer. He became the heartbeat, the conductor, the true number 10 at the center of Marseille's orchestra. The 1990s marked the brightest chapter of Abedi Pelé's career. When Raymond Goethals restored him to the center of midfield, Marseille awakened. In just a few years, a man once rejected across Europe became the beating heart of France's greatest club side. In the 1990-91 European Cup, Marseille faced AC Milan in the quarter-finals, a team at the height of its power, boasting the legendary Dutch trio of Van Basten, Gullit, and Rijkaard. The world expected Marseille to crumble, but in a magical night at San Siro, Abedi Pelé danced among Milan's giants, controlling possession, igniting attacks, and inspiring an improbable victory. OM eliminated Milan, stunning Europe. They reached the final against Red Star Belgrade, only to lose on penalties. Abedi collapsed on the pitch in tears, a reminder that in football, the best are not always the winners. That heartbreak only fueled his resolve. In the 1991-92 season, Jean-Pierre Papin claimed the European Golden Boot, but Marseille's heartbeat was still Abedi. He directly influenced more than half of OM's goals, the link, the rhythm, the catalyst. CAF named him African Footballer of the Year in 1991 and 1992. Then came the 1992-93 season, destiny itself. Papin and Waddle departed, while Rudi Fuller and Alan Bakšić arrived. Yet all eyes turned to one man, the small Ghanaian number 10. Marseille landed in a group of death with Rangers, CSKA Moscow, and Club Brugge. Time and again, when they faltered, Abedi delivered. In a tense 1-1 draw in Moscow, it was his goal that kept them alive. Back home, OM destroyed CSKA 6-0, highlighted by a classic Abedi moment, cutting inside from the left, weaving past three defenders, and curling the ball into the net. On May 26, 1993, all of Europe looked to Munich. The Champions League final, Marseille versus mighty AC Milan. The game was taut, on edge. In the 44th minute, OM won a corner on the left. The taker, Abedi Pelé. His curling delivery found Basile Boli, who rose and thundered a header past Sebastiano Rossi, 1-0, the only goal of the night. When the final whistle blew, Marseille became the first and still the only French club to win the Champions League. On the touchline, Abedi held his head and wept. He knew this was not only Marseille's victory, but Africa's. For the first time, a black African player had stood at the summit of European football. That night immortalized Abedi Pelé. He was not just a great number 10, he was Africa's first great number 10, a symbol of recognition, pride, and proof that African football could conquer the world stage. For 3 consecutive years, 1991 to 1993, CAF crowned him African Footballer of the Year. And in March 2004, FIFA named him among its FIFA 100, the eternal legends of the game. For Marseille, he was the heart. For Ghana, he was pride. For Africa, he was the answer. From a dim kerosene lamp in a small village to the blazing lights of Munich's Olympiastadion, a child of Oko had reached paradise. If the Champions League triumph of 1993 was the pinnacle of his career, then Abedi Pelé's footballing philosophy is what made him eternal. He is not remembered only for goals or assists, but for the way he transformed matches into symphonies of emotion. Abedi once said, "They call me Pelé, but I will play like Abedi." It was a declaration of identity. He refused to be anyone's shadow. For him, football was art, and every player was an artist with a duty to create something unique. He played like a dancer on grass. Sudden step-overs, subtle shoulder feints, dazzling dribbles that froze defenders. His movements carried an almost mystical quality. He didn't rely on speed or brute strength, yet he controlled the rhythm of the entire game. When the ball was at Abedi's feet, Marseille knew their heartbeat was steady. In France during the 1990s, children playing in the parks didn't call him by his name. They simply said, "Number 10." For them, the number itself was synonymous with Abedi Pelé. That was the clearest sign that he had become more than a player. he was the embodiment of the role, the symbol of creativity on the field. What set Abedi apart was not only his vision as a playmaker, but his ability to inspire. His trivela passes bent like ballet moves, his through balls split defenses, his improvisations made crowds hold their breath. With Abedi, football had to be beautiful. It had to stir the heart. It had to make people fall in love, not just win or lose. That is why his greatest legacy lies not in statistics, but in philosophy. He paved the way for generations of African number 10s, from J.J. Okocha's flamboyance to Yaya Touré's power and creativity, even to the artistry of modern forwards like Mohamed Salah. All of them, in some way, walked in the footsteps of the Ghanaian maestro, who proved Africa could produce true artists of the game. Abedi Pelé didn't just play football, he gave it soul. And that is why history remembers him as Africa's first great number 10. The glory of Munich in 1993 should have been the gateway to an even greater era for Abedi Pelé and Marseille. But football, like life, can be cruel. Just weeks after lifting the historic Champions League trophy, French football was rocked by the Valenciennes match-fixing scandal. President Bernard Tapie was accused of bribing opponents to rest players before key matches. The punishment was severe. Marseille were stripped of their Ligue 1 title, banned from the next Champions League, and their reputation collapsed. Though Abedi Pelé had no part in the scandal, he too bore its weight. The team that conquered Munich fell apart. Stars like Desailly, Deschamps, and Fuller departed. Marseille descended into chaos, and Abedi, once the heartbeat of the side, suddenly found himself isolated. He stayed for another season, but eventually had to leave. No single man could carry a collapsing empire on his shoulders. He moved to Lyon, then a club on the rise but not yet a powerhouse. Abedi played well, still creative, but without the structure around him, his genius often went wasted. Next came Torino in Serie A, where tactics and discipline reigned. By then, age, injuries, and the ghosts of his past weighed him down. In 1996, in a twist of irony, he signed with 1860 Munich, and rumors swirled that he had thought it was Bayern. At 32, he relied on experience more than brilliance. The dazzling dribbles that once made defenders tremble were now a step slower. His European career wound down. Abedi moved to the UAE, joining Al Ain, winning minor titles before retiring in 2000. No farewell match, no grand tribute. He slipped quietly off the stage, far from the dazzling lights of Munich 1993. Parallel to his club career, his journey with Ghana was equally bittersweet. After winning the 1982 African Cup of Nations, Abedi became the leader of the Black Stars. He earned 73 caps, scored dozens of goals, and appeared in 5 editions of the tournament, a record at the time. Yet the World Cup, the ultimate stage, always eluded him. Ghana repeatedly failed in qualification, and the dream slipped away, perhaps the greatest regret of his career. The cruelest chapter came in Cannes 1992. Abedi had carried Ghana to the final with vital goals in the group stage and semi-final. But destiny struck. He was suspended for the final against Ivory Coast. From the stands, he wept as Ghana lost in an 11-round penalty shootout. Despite missing the last match, he was still named player of the tournament. A cruel paradox, the best player of the competition denied the trophy. This was the tragedy of Abedi Pelé, a genius adored by Africa, yet scarred by wounds that never fully healed. A Marseille broken by scandal, a World Cup that never came, an African crown denied in the cruelest way. All of it composed the sorrowful movement in the symphony of the legendary number 10. When the lights of European football dimmed, many players chose to stay close to the glitter of media or commercial football. But Abedi Pelé was different. He did not chase the fading spotlight or live off past glory. Instead, he quietly returned to Ghana and founded Nania FC, a youth academy built from nothing with one clear mission: to give back to football what football had given him. In an interview, he once said, "Football gave me everything. At some point, you must give it back." And he gave back abundantly. not just with an academy, but with spirit, with inspiration, with the legacy he left to generations after him. That legacy can first be seen in his own family. All three of his sons became footballers. Andre Ayew, Ghana's record appearance holder, a World Cup goalscorer. Jordan Ayew, still battling in Premier League for over a decade. Ibrahim Ayew, quieter, yet following the same path. The Ayew flame, lit by their father, continues to burn on the pitch. But Abedi's influence stretched far beyond his family. He was the proof Africa needed, that the continent could produce great number 10s. Without him, perhaps J.J. Okocha would not have had a trailblazer. Without him, perhaps the world would have taken longer to recognize that African football could be powerful, artistic, and refined all at once. In 2004, his name was etched into the FIFA 100, the list of living legends chosen by Brazil's Pelé himself. But to Africa, he was more than that. He was living proof that from a small village in Ghana, a boy with a ragged ball could carve his name into the history of world football. What set Abedi apart was not just the titles, but the feelings he left behind. You may forget numbers, but you cannot forget the moments he made stadiums hold their breath. You may not recall every goal, but you will never forget that corner in Munich 1993, when the ball left his foot and rewrote French football history. In today's world, dominated by statistics, analytics, and rankings, players like Abedi Pelé are rare and precious. They were not born to be compared, they were born to be felt. Abedi Pelé was one of the few. Today, when we look back, we see not only a three-time African Footballer of the Year or a Champions League winner. We see an artist of the game, a torchbearer for a continent, a man who gave football its soul. And that is why history remembers him as Africa's first great number 10. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel to join us in celebrating more forgotten legends of football.